Hi everybody, it's Mr. Yoder here. Hope you guys are doing well. As you can see, I'm recording this video from my apartment. I would much rather be in school right now with all of you guys, but we got to do we got to do what we got to do to beat this coronavirus. And there's been a lot of information going around lately about things that you can do to prepare yourselves for a coronavirus. And there's obviously an election coming up, so there's a lot of information on the different presidential candidates. And in fact, we live in a world right now where there's just so much information out there. There's so many articles, so many videos, and it's coming from so many different sources. At times it can seem overwhelming. And so over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be focusing on something called media literacy. And that basically means, how do you take this sea of information and make sense of it? Like if you go and scroll through Facebook, you just go and watch the news, or really read anything on the internet, how do you know if it's true or not? How do you know if somebody's telling you to do something to prepare yourself for coronavirus? How do you know if you should take that person's advice or not? And so hopefully over the next couple weeks, you'll get a better understanding of how you can make sense of whether something that you're reading or watching is true or not. And that's a really, really important skill to have in a democracy like we live in. So we talked about the First Amendment and how it gives us freedom of speech and freedom of the press. That basically means that people can say whatever they want. And the problem with that is that when you have freedom of speech, that means that some people are going to be wrong. People are going to say things that are inaccurate. And so that is your job as a consumer of news to decide if something is true or not. And so I hope that you find this lesson and the next few lessons coming up empowering, and I hope that they help you become better consumers of the news. All right, so let's go ahead and jump right in. Alright, so I'm just going to record what's on my laptop screen right now. Alright, so here's our objective for today's lessons. Students will be able to apply close reading strategies to comprehension questions about a text. So what are we going to do today? First, we're going to do a materials check. I'm going to make sure that you have everything that you need for this lesson. Things are going to be a little bit different because I'm not there in person, but hopefully we'll get into a routine, and then you can use that for your upcoming lessons as well. And then we're going to go over article number 1. The title of that article is "It's No Joke. People Increasingly Believe Fake News Isn't Really Fake." And then we're going to do a read aloud of that article, and then we're going to go over those questions as we read. Hopefully this process will become more clear once we jump into it. All right. But of course, this is one of Mr. Yoder's lessons, so we cannot just start off without a joke of the day. So, our joke of the day is, what part of the car is the laziest? What do you guys think? You can pause this video if you need to at any time. I don't want to give it away just yet, but I guess some of you are going to be anxious. You want to know. Okay, what part of the car is the laziest? The wheels, because they're always tired. Get it? So there are like actual tires, but they're tired as in like sleepy. So it's a pun. Get it? Okay, Mr. Yoder's a little crazy. I know. All right. All right, so now we're going to jump into our lesson for today. And so there are two things that you should have out. And the first is this reading. So this is article number 1. It says, "It's no joke. People increasingly believe fake news isn't really fake." So that's one thing that you should have out. And then the second thing that you should have out is the article questions. And I've put these up on Google Classroom, and I'm going to show you how you can get there. So I'm on Google Classroom right now. And I just posted a new assignment. This is Article 1 questions. So you're going to click on that assignment, and then I'm just going to click open it. So I'm just going to pretend I'm Joel's here and open it up. And you're going to see a list of questions here. There should be 7 questions for this reading. So I'm going to give you guys a couple options. So you may either type your answers on the document on Google Classroom. So for example, if I'm Joel's, I've already gone in, I've clicked on the question, and then I'm just going to start typing whatever I need to type. That is option number 1. Option number 2 is you can actually print this out and handwrite it. So I'm hopefully going to be in touch with you guys individually soon to make a plan for what works best for each of you. But I'll leave it up to you. You can either type your answers on Google Classroom or you can handwrite them. All right, so now we're going to jump right into the reading. So I'm going to set my camera up. Hopefully this is easy for you guys to read. I might need to adjust this. So I'm going to pause the video so I can adjust my camera. All right, welcome back. So I've just adjusted my camera, so I'm going to take notes on this as I go. So let me walk you guys through the process. Here's how I'm going to do this. So first, we're going to identify the topic and genre of this text, same as I always would. And then I'm going to read through the article, and I'm going to stop at a few key moments in the article in order to help us answer the questions about the text. So very first thing I want to do is identify the topic of this article. So I see it says, "It's no joke. People increasingly believe fake news isn't really fake." So that's the title. I know this has something to do with fake news just from looking at the title. So I'm going to write topic, fake news. That's just from looking at the title. And I'm also going to read the author. So I see this is by PBS NewsHour, adapted by News ELA staff on 12/11/16. That means December 11th, 2016. So that tells me right away, I know this was written by PBS NewsHour. PBS is a reputable news organization. So I know that this is legit. And I'm also going to look at the picture. And I'm going to read the caption for that picture. So I'm looking at this picture. I see a guy, and he's kneeling on the ground. There are some flowers. Looks like something sad has happened here. Like, why else would there be flowers? There's a sign that says, "We love our neighbors." There's a heart. So it looks like something sad has happened. And so, even before I read the caption that clues me in, there's something bad or sad or unfortunate that has happened here. So let me read the caption. Jared Peterson leaves a sign outside Comet Ping Pong in Washington, D.C., the scene of a shooting in December 2016, spurred by a fake news story. Photo is by Matt McLean, The Washington Post, via Getty Images. Okay, so I already knew from the picture something sad or something bad had happened here, and the caption tells me exactly what that is. It tells me there was a shooting, and it had to do with a fake news story. So why would there be a shooting because of a fake news story? That seems just really suspicious to me. So I want to learn more. I need to slow down or I'm going to get winded. I've been talking so much. Not used to talking this much and this quickly. All right. All right, so we already identified the topic. And then next up is for me to identify the genre. Genre just means, is it fiction or nonfiction? Did it really happen or is it made up? And because this is written by PBS NewsHour, that is a news organization that tells me that this is real. That means it is nonfiction. So I'm going to write genre is nonfiction. I'm going to write nonfiction news. All right. So the reason I do this is because just from looking at the title, the picture, and the caption, I've already learned something about this story. And we can do this every single time we read a new article. I haven't even read a single line of text yet. All right, so normally what I would do as I read is I would leave annotations on the side of the paper. There isn't a whole lot of space on this paper, but I do have a set of questions that I am answering. So if I go back and I look at the questions that I either have on Google Classroom or I have printed out, these are questions that are going to help me summarize the most important parts of the reading. And one other thing I wanted to tell you guys about the way that this packet is set up is that you will see that after every question there's a number. So for example, question number 1 says, where is fake election news popular on the internet? And then you see the number 4. That 4 represents the paragraph number. So that means that if I want to answer this question, I'm going to look in paragraph number 4. So as I read, right before I come to each of these paragraphs, the numbers 4, the number 5 through 6, 9 through 10, 11, and the last one says 11 through 12. I'm going to pause right before I read those paragraphs and go back and read the original questions. All right, so I'm going to start off. I'm going to read paragraphs 1 through 3, and then I'm going to pause again right before I read paragraph 4. So I'm going to go back to the reading. All right, and one thing that I do as I read is I actually have my pen in my hand, and my pen is going to be right below the word that I am reading. This makes it a lot easier for me to keep track as someone is reading aloud. So I'm going to start. I'm going to read paragraph number 1. I'm going to take a minute, catch my breath, because I've been talking a lot. All right. One Sunday afternoon in 2016, A young man walked into a Washington, D.C. ping pong bar and pizzeria with a large gun. He fired one or more shots before surrendering to police officers. No one was hurt. Paragraph 2. Edgar Madison Welch told police he went to the nation's capital to investigate a story he read online. The story said Hillary Clinton was part of a secret group hurting children. The pizzeria was also involved, the story said. It was a false claim started by fake news. All right, so I'm going to pause right here. We're already seeing that term fake news. We haven't talked a lot about what that term means, and we're going to learn more about it as we continue reading and also in future lessons. All right, so now we're on paragraph 4. I'm going to go back. I remember there was a question that I could answer by reading paragraph 4, so I'm going to go read that question. And that is, where is fake election news popular on the internet? So I'm going to keep that question in mind as I read. All right. Fake news was once limited to joke stories in the corners of the internet. Now, it has become one of the most important phrases of the year. Following Donald Trump's surprise election, reporters have asked whether fake news changed people's minds about who to vote for. As it turns out, I'm going to go back up to the top of the next page. It might have played a big part. A recent study found that fake election news was very popular on Facebook. Ding, ding, ding. All right, so just by reading this very last sentence, I've already found my answer to question number 1. So where is fake election news popular on the internet? It was popular on Facebook. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go into the document, and I'm going to write, it was popular on Facebook, period. And again, I have the option, I can either type this or I can hand write it on a piece of paper. All right, let us continue. So I've just finished reading paragraph number 4. I see question number 2 is asking me about something that happens in paragraphs 5 and 6. So I'm going to read that question so it's fresh in my mind as I read. And the question is, why do websites publish fake news? All right, let us read. Why do websites publish fake news? Let's find out. All right. There are different kinds of fake news. Some of it is funny fake stories that is meant to be a joke. The kind of fake news that led to Pizzagate is different. This kind of sensational news is filled with false information designed to fool people. Computer scientist Filippo Megzer said it started to spread across the internet around 2010. At that time, he found several websites publishing completely fake news. The sites were doing it for political purposes or to change people's minds about important topics. All right, so I'm not going to give you guys the answer this time, but I know that my answer for question number 2 was in these last 2 paragraphs. So if you need to pause this video, take a minute, look back at these 2 paragraphs, and answer question number 2. All right, so question number 3 is asking me, what is satire? And that is in paragraphs 9 and 10. I'm going to read paragraph 7 and 8, and then we'll pause again. All right. So paragraph 7, terrible disease made worse by fake news. It got worse during 2014 when the deadly disease Ebola spread across West Africa. The websites for places like National Report began to look like real news sources. One National Report story said that a family in Texas was sick with Ebola. Even though it wasn't true, the story was shared on Facebook more than 330,000 times. The website earned money from all the people clicking on the story. Scientist Danigal Young doesn't blame readers for spreading fake news. They can't help it, she says. All right, so I'm about to start paragraph number 9. And I'm going to look for the answer to question number 3. What is satire? Very good term to know. Young has spent 10 years studying how the human mind responds to political satire. Satire is probably the most common kind of fake news. It's fake news that pretends to be real, even though it's actually a joke. The reader is supposed to understand the joke. They are not meant to believe the story is truthful. The brain works differently when it responds to satire, Young said. It becomes more engaged. As a result, people are more likely to remember things when they hear them in the form of a joke. So if you need to pause this video for a second, you may, so that you can answer question number 3, what is satire? All right, so our next question is number 4. What is the problem with satire? So as I look at my questions, I see that the answer is going to be in paragraph number 11. So people don't recognize satire. These days, the problem comes from people not being able to recognize satire. Young pointed to a recent online petition as an example. The petition was written to make fun of lawmakers, but some people thought that it was real, including some news sources that wrote about it. So again, I'm going to pause, and now you should be answering question number 4. What is the problem with satire? All right, and now I'm going to move on to question number 5. I actually made a mistake on the question sheet. So if you look at the paper, it might say that you should look in paragraphs 11 and 12. You should actually look in paragraphs 12 and 13. That is my mistake. I apologize for that. So question number 5 is asking, what is the problem with using computer programs to identify satire? I'm going to keep that in mind as I read paragraphs 12 and 13. All right. So, what happens next in the wild world of fake news? Some are looking to computers for help. For example, scientists can write programs to recognize satire and separate this kind of fake news from real news. But these programs can't do everything. For example, they are not as good at identifying simple lies like those in the story that led to Pizzagate. The programs perform better than humans, but not by much. So again, I'm going to pause right here. Please use what you learned in these last two paragraphs to answer question 5. All right. Now I'm going to finish off the reading. Only 2 paragraphs left. We're almost done. Since the election, many have blamed Facebook for creating echo chambers in users' news feed. But these platforms are designed to satisfy people's choices. People are driven to read and share news they like, Young said. She thinks there should be people in charge to help select trending news. These people would also be able to stop fake news from spreading. Users can also avoid echo chambers by making certain choices. Don't unfollow people just because they post something you disagree with, Mixer said. All right, so that is it for the comprehension questions. There are also 2 other questions in your packet, and these are inferential questions, so you could think of them as challenge questions. Question number 6 asks, what is an echo chamber? Is it good or bad, and why? And number 7 says, give an example of satire. How is it different from a real story? And for these 2 questions, these are challenge questions. You're going to have to put on your thinking caps and give it your best shot. All right, so that is it for lesson number 1. I hope you found this video helpful. I will also be in touch soon. Keep checking Google Classroom. I'm going to be posting updates at least a couple times a week going forward. Take care of yourselves, guys, and let's all do our best to get through this coronavirus pandemic together. All right, be strong.